Hi, welcome back to Quick Book Looks. Today we're going to be reading one of my favorite cozy mystery series, Homicide in Hardcover by Kate Carlisle. It's part of the Bibliophile mystery and involves a book restorer. Chapter 1. My teacher always told me that in order to save a patient, you'd have to kill him first. Not the most child-friendly way of explaining his theory of book restoration or his 8-year-old apprentice, but it worked. I grew up determined to save them all. As I studied the faded, brittle, leather-bound volume that lay near death on the work table before me, I knew I could bring it back to life too, but it wouldn't be easy. With 600 pages of crusty, smelly pulp, the book's once elegant, gilded spine was nearly severed from its body. Sorry, old thing, but I'm not letting you die on my watch. I dusted its hinges with a soft brush, then ran a finger along the spine. It came away covered in red powder. Red rot had set in. The leather binding was terminal. I picked up my scalpel and pierced the frail calfskin along the aged brown hinge, extricating the bits of thready sinew still clinging to the sticky bits of leather. Despite my mother's misgivings, I was grateful I'd bypassed medical school, because let's face it, if this book were human, I'd be drenched in blood up to my elbows and probably unconscious. I didn't do so well around blood. I heard a sharp intake of breath. That's disgusting. I flinched and the scalpel flew from my hand. I looked up and saw my best friend, Robin Tully, staring at the flaky leather chunks and moldy paper splayed across the table. I didn't hear you come in, I said, patting my heart. Apparently not, she said as she retrieved the scalpel off the floor and placed it safely on the table. A bomb could go off and you wouldn't notice. I ignored that, jumped off the high stool, and grabbed her in a tight hug. You're early, aren't you? She checked her watch. Actually, I'm right on time, which I suppose is early in your world. I smiled, then held up my camera. Do you mind? I need another few minutes to map and shoot this stuff. Procrastinate all you want. I'm in a hurry. She pulled off her fuzzy black jacket and fluffed her hair. I'm not procrastinating. I took several close-up shots of the decomposing front forage, then looked up and caught Robin's look of profound pity. What? She held up her hands. I said nothing. I can hear you judging me. I put the camera down and grabbed a handful of chocolate swirled caramel kisses, a product I personally considered a miracle of modern technology. I popped a few pieces into my mouth, tried to enjoy the warm burst of flavors, but finally threw my hands up in defeat. Okay, I'm procrastinating. Can you blame me? I could be walking into a trap tonight. She laughed. We're going to the library, not sneaking down a dark alley. I know it, I scowled. Tonight was a private showing of the most important book collection to open at the Covington Library in years. The man being honored tonight, the man responsible for the restoration of the rare and antiquarian books on display, was Abraham Karastovsky, my lifelong teacher and mentor. And nemesis? I didn't know. We hadn't spoken in 6 months, and I was frankly nervous about seeing him after being estranged for so long. 6 months ago, after years of indecision, I'd finally given Abraham notice that I'd be moving out from under his shadow to start my own business. He hadn't taken the news well. He'd never been good at accepting change. He was old school, settled in his ways, determined to fight the modern trends in both book restoration and life in general. When I went off to college to study book restoration and conservation, he declared it was a useless waste of time, and I'd learned more on the job working with him. Despite his gruff ways, it had been a difficult decision to leave him, even though I'd essentially been working independently for years. Abraham had been furious and had said some things I'd hoped he might regret now. What would happen when we met face to face again? Would he treat me like an enemy, cut me off without a word, ridicule me in front of friends and colleagues? I was beyond worried. Could anyone blame me for procrastinating? He sent you an invitation, Robin said. That proves he wants to see you. He's not the best communicator, but he loves you, Brooklyn. You know that. I felt tears spring up, and I prayed she was right. It was both comforting and annoying to know she usually was. We'd been best friends since the age of 7 when my parents joined a spiritual commune up in the country north of San Francisco. My mom and dad had dragged me and my 5 young siblings off to experience the excitement of growing our own vegetables, wearing clothing made of hemp, and sharing in harmony and oneness of nature. I did not go quietly. When we arrived at the commune, the first person I noticed among the crowd of strangers was a dark-haired girl about my age, defiantly clutching a bald-headed Barbie clad in a red satin dress and black stiletto heels. That was Robin. We bonded immediately, despite the fact that we were opposites in so many ways. These days, Robin comes across as a glamorous, carefree society girl. You'd never guess she runs her own tour and travel business and is also a brilliant sculptor. She is a curvy brunette with almond eyes and an uncanny ability to cause men to wander off sidewalks into oncoming traffic. I, on the other hand, am serious, blonde, tall, still barely out of my gangly stage, and occasionally have men ask me about my revolutionary technique for stretching leather. Sounds kinky, but sadly it's not. I was wearing a somber yet elegant black suit while Robin looked simply smashing, all dressed up for a splashy art opening in a sassy cocktail dress and spiky black heels. Her only accessory, a classic strand of pearls she inherited from her great grandmother. Unfortunately, we weren't going to a splashy art opening. "Why are you so dressed up?" I asked, carefully removing my dust covered lab coat. Tonight's private showing for the Covington Library Founders Circle would be a quiet affair attended by the library's trustees, past and present donors, the board of directors, and the wealthiest members of San Francisco society. Hey, there may be nothing but wall to wall old farts tonight, but I'm still there to partay. Ah, I hung the lamp up in the small closet near the front door. I thought maybe you'd forgotten where we were going. "How could I forget?" she said, steering clear of the table, which was covered with brittle hunks of leather and swollen manuscript pages. "Abraham called me again this afternoon to make sure I was coming tonight. He was almost hyperventilating, he was so excited." "He's been calling you?" I felt a tug of resentment that Abraham had contacted her. But why wouldn't he? He'd been a commune member as long as Robin and I had lived there. We were all very close, but I'd always been his favorite. Now I didn't know what I was to him. "He never used to call me," Robin pointed out. "I figured it's his way of keeping tabs on you." "Maybe. And he never asked directly about you, but I always end up talking more about you than me. Go figure." I refused to get my hopes up. "So he's anxious about tonight?" "Frantic would be a more accurate word," she said, as she sat down at my desk. "I guess one of the most important books in the show isn't finished yet." "The Faust," I murmured. It was all I could do to keep the woefully bitter jealousy that was yapping inside me from creeping into my voice. "I hear it's really something." That might have been an understatement of the year. Here I sat, toiling away on a set of lovely but anonymous old medical treaties, while Abraham had snagged the dream commission of the century, the legendary Heinrich Winslow collection of rare antiquarian books and prints. The Winslow book collection was considered one of the finest in the world, and it was and the cursed. Crowning glory was said to
Some
be a
attributed the curse to the
jewel-encrusted,
fact that it
gilded
had briefly
edition
belonged to
of
Adolf Hitler,
Goethe's
who
masterwork,
apparently had little
Faust,
appreciation
commissioned
for
by
books.
Kaiser
No big
Wilhelm in
surprise.
1880. Der Fuhrer had passed the priceless Faust to Heinrich Winslow's wife as a token gift for a dinner party thrown in his honor. Shortly after that fateful dinner, Heinrich Winslow was poisoned and died a gruesome death. The books were distributed among the Winslow brothers, and several other family members died after taking the Faust into their collection. No wonder they thought it was cursed. Nobody loved a good book curse more than I did. I was so jealous of Abraham that I could barely think straight. "Hello, Brooklyn, I come with food." My eyes lit up as a pretty young Indian woman poked her head inside the doorway. "Hey, Vinny, come on in," I said. Her torn 501s and clunky biker chick boots belied her chirpy voice and delicate features as she walked in carrying a shopping bag stuffed with little white cartons. "I don't wish to interrupt, but Susie and I agreed you would like our leftover Chinese food. This is true?" "God, yes," I said, practically drooling at the tempting scent of orange chicken and beef with broccoli sauce wafted my way. I turned to Robin. "Vinny's one of my neighbors." To Vinny, I said, "This is my friend Robin." "Nice to meet you," Robin said. Vinny bowed her head. "I am Vinamra Patel, but please call me Vinny." Vinny and her girlfriend, Susie Stein, lived in a loft down the hall from me. They were wood sculptors and animal activists. Until I moved here, I'd never actually seen two chainsaw-wielding lesbians go to town on a 300-pound hunk of redwood burl. It was impressive. This is really sweet, Vinny, I said, staring into the stuffed shopping bag. Thanks. We leave tonight for the Sierra Festival and didn't want to throw food away, she explained to Robin. It will not go to waste here. Robin shot me a look. They know you so well. My eyes narrowed. They're attentive neighbors. She is a good little eater, Vinny said with a soft smile. I will put this in the kitchen. She disappeared down the hall that led to my living area. Robin laughed. No wonder you love this place. She also knew me well. Yes, I like to eat. A lot. I wasn't picky. I loved everything, especially chocolate and pizza. Oh, and red meat. I loved a good steak. I blamed it on my parents and the 2-year vegan phase they foisted on me and my siblings during our formative years. I still had the emotional scars and enjoyed reminding them of the pain whenever they lit up the barbecue grill. Everything is in the fridge, Vinny said in her sing-song voice as she handed me a cluster of keys. Her eyes widened as she noticed the lumpy shards of leather and paper on my table. This is your new work? Yes, I said proudly. Her gaze darted to Robin and her forehead creased in distaste. It is very nice. Robin snorted. You mean it's a pile of rancid crap? Vinny nodded. As you say. Thanks so much for the food, Vinny, I said, shaking the key ring. You and Susie enjoy the art festival. I'll take good care of Pookie and Splinters. Vinny didn't seem concerned about the fate of her cats. She just stared at the decrepit book parts as if she was hypnotized or something. I jiggled the keys again and she blinked. You're most kind to attend to our darlings. Then she bowed one last time and took off. Robin's brown eyes sparkled with amusement. She left you in charge of her pets? I can handle 2 cats for 3 days. She laughed. Famous last words from the woman with the largest plot in the commune pet cemetery. That's not fair, I grimaced. I had goldfish. Goldfish always die. Come on, they banned you from the pet store. Shut up, please. I grabbed my purse. Let's go. She glanced down at my feet and her eyes widened. Oh my God, you can take the girl out of the commune. Oh dear. I kicked off my comfy sandals and slid into the pair of black pumps I'd left by the door. Better? Marginally. Such a bitch. She laughed as she opened the door. Okay, I love the suit and the heels are definitely an improvement, but I can't believe you still wear Birkenstocks. Just when I'm working, I sighed. It's like my feet are molded to their shape. Robin snorted delicately, like a geisha, only not. Sad but true. I turned off the light. But for Abraham, I'll bite the bullet and wear heels. Don't worry, you look great, she said over her shoulder. He's just going to die when he sees you. That's the end of chapter one. If you're interested in seeing what happens between Brooklyn and Abraham's relationship and how involved she gets in the book restoration world, I suggest you check it out. Thank you for joining me, and I hope you join me next week.